Welcome to the eCommerce podcast with me, your host, Matt Edmondson, a show that is all about helping you to deliver e-commerce wow. Now, I'm super excited with today's guest, who is Adam Pearce from Blend Commerce, about the customer experience before, during, and after the sale. But before we get into that conversation with Adam, who is, as always, a legend, let me give a quick shout out to past guests and episodes here on the e-commerce podcast. And given that we are in fact talking about customer experience, I thought it would be great to mention a podcast which was called Personalizing the Customer Journey to Increase Lifetime Value. Check that out with Matt Barnett. Such a great conversation. Matt, such cool. I still remember that. Brilliant conversation. And also check out Kath Pay's conversation, where we talked about how to optimize engagement through customer life cycle marketing. Let me get that right. So do check out Kath's episode, which was also fantastic. This episode is brought to you by the e-commerce cohort, which helps you deliver e-commerce wow to your customers. It is basically a lightweight membership group with guided monthly sprints that cycle through all the key areas of e-commerce. What does that mean? It means every month you come and work on your e-commerce business with like-minded people, so you can get a list of actionable jobs to be done. You're going to know what to work on, when to work on it, and get the support you need to get it done. So whether you are just starting out in e-commerce, or if you're, I think I said on one episode, if you're a bit of a dinosaur, if you've been around a little while like my good self, you're still going to be really, really grateful for it, let me tell you. So I definitely encourage you to go check out ecommercecohort.com, as it is gearing up for its founder member launch, which is going to start in just a couple of weeks. It is almost there. Yes, it is. So if you're listening to this and you still have the time available, check out ecommercecohort.com and take advantage of the founding member launch offer, which is not easy to say, but do check it out. And of course, if you've got any questions, just email me directly at matt@ecommercepodcast.net with any questions, because it's something that we're super, super proud of, let me tell you. Now, are you ready? Grab your coffee, grab your notebook, grab your pen. Here's my conversation with Adam. Well, welcome. I am here with my fantabulous guest, Adam, who is the co-founder and CEO of Blend Commerce, which is an e-commerce customer experience agency. Now, Adam and his team have worked with over 200 Shopify retailers to help them provide memorable customer experiences that drive growth in revenue and profit. 200. Adam, that's a lot of Shopify sites to work on. So it's good to have you here. It's good to be talking about all the stuff that you've learned. Thanks for joining me.
No, thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate it. And I like being called fantabulous. I'm going to use that again, I think.
Yeah. I think it's a great word. I think we should use it more. Now, I can tell by your accent, good sir, that you are, it seems like you hail from the Midlands in the UK slightly. It's always nice to have a fellow Brit on the podcast, not going to lie. So whereabouts in the world are you?
Yeah, so we are about 10 minutes from Stratford-upon-Avon, so right in the thick of Shakespeare country, and a couple of hours from London. So it's a nice part of the world to be in. But you can probably tell by my slightly Peaky Blinders accent that I'm from close to Birmingham.
Peaky Blinders. Do you know what I discovered the other day? And this is not related to e-commerce at all, although I did discover it online. I'm not going to lie. And I bought it for a friend. Was Peaky Blinders gin. And apparently it's got some really great reviews. I've not tried it myself, but I bought it as a gift because they were a bit of a Peaky Blinders fan. But who knew you could get Peaky Blinders gin?
I know. I think that they've done pretty well off that franchise, haven't they? So, missed the boat on that one.
Yeah, I wonder what we can do now. A Peaky Blinders Shopify site, maybe. I don't know. So how did you get into Shopify?
Completely 100% fell into it. If I'm honest with you, and I think that's why I kind of love e-commerce. But the situation is that I left university with kind of dollar signs in the back of my eyelids, thinking, right, I'm going to go to London, I'm going to make my fortune. I went to work for quite a big management consultancy firm, and kind of realized after about a year that I don't want to do this. It wasn't what I imagined. And really kind of from that point, I then retrained to be a teacher, was a teacher for kind of 3 years, taught economics. And then after that, I then decided again.
I just want to say that's awesome, being a teacher,
well,
an economics teacher.
It was in some respects, but yeah, a tough job and definitely the hardest job I've ever done.
Yeah.
By far, compared to like running a company, it makes running a company look like child's play. I think it really does. But basically, my business partner, who is also my brother-in-law, he came to me probably about 7 years ago and said, look, he was actually a quantity surveyor. And he said, look, I'm teaching myself to code. I've come across this new Canadian platform called Shopify. I think it's going to be the next big thing. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, don't really think it will be. And I basically left teaching and I was working for an education app company. And I kind of been learning marketing, getting more into it. I always kind of had a bit of an eye for business, but then was kind of then a director, an e-commerce, a education app company. And he said, look, let's kind of do something together. So as many good businesses do, we had far too many beers one night, made a verbal agreement that we were going to start. And the next day, we started the business. So that was, 5 years ago. Now sort of a team of 19, working with Shopify and Shopify Plus merchants on customer experience. So, it's pretty exciting. But I think, look, that, like I said before, Matt, that's why I love e-commerce, because you don't have that kind of old boys club that you get with a lot of other industries. Yeah. It's still such a young industry. And I think that's what keeps it fresh and is as a nice place to work in.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's interesting that you kind of, like a lot of people, you kind of felt your way into it. There was a very, sort of topsy-turvy route which you took to get there. And that's one of the things that fascinates me. Actually, that's quite a common thing amongst guests that we have on the show. No one ever started or left university. I didn't leave uni and think I'm going to set up a business and become the king of beauty. Do you know what I mean? And I just stumbled into this beauty website business years ago, and it was what kickstarted everything. Anyway, fascinating. So here you are, right? 5 years later, or about 20 staff in the agency, 19, 20 staff in the agency. You focus specifically on Shopify. And before we get into this whole customer experience before, during, after, as per the podcast title, why Shopify? Why did you pick that platform specifically? And why have you stayed loyal to it, I guess, over the last 5 years?
No, I mean, at the time, when sort of Peter started to develop Shopify, it was still obviously in its infancy. And I think, the solutions really at the time were, look, you would either go to Magento, which is obviously for those big sort of enterprise level companies and maybe sort of mid-market to an extent. And then you also had kind of, these scrappier D2C brands coming up who were kind of using WooCommerce, where they were kind of a WordPress site with a plugin. And ultimately, I think the problem was with both those solutions, it didn't fit the model that these kind of new upcoming D2C brands wanted to fit into. Magento was too clunky. It was too big. There was too much there. The WooCommerce side of things, it didn't really do the e-commerce thing as well as kind of people wanted it to do. So Shopify, I think, kind of came into a space that was really kind of there for the taking. And, over the course of the past year, sort of 5 years, we've other platforms, have sort of coming into the market. But, ultimately, look, Shopify has grown so much. There really isn't a necessity for us to kind of look anywhere else. And I think the beauty of it is that, some of the brands that we worked with sort of 5 years ago were this kind of, sort of very much sort of, an acorn of an idea of growing into these massive companies now. And it's not only can we help service them, but we've also got these other companies who have been coming through the ranks. And then you've got people move from Magento to Shopify Plus. So the market for Shopify is so big. And equally, from our point of view, as an agency, if we can specialize in that one thing, it just gives more, I think, trust and more confidence in the clients that we work with, because they know, when we can turn around and say, look, we've worked with, 199 other people just like you, it naturally is then going to give people that confidence that we've kind of seen some things that they would have experienced before. So for us, it's still massively important to what we do.
That's really interesting. So, and you're right. I mean, from someone on the outside looking in, I suppose, with Shopify, watching it change over the last 5 years, and just see the just enormous amount of funding they've managed to secure for development, it's now a force to be reckoned with, isn't it? I don't actually know how many transactions online go through Shopify, but it seems like Amazon and Shopify are the two e-commerce giants.
Yeah.
And, they are a prolific platform, but they've still managed to maintain, I think, really well ease of use. If you're just starting out in e-commerce and you're thinking, well, I don't want to go and spend 30 grand on a website. I just want to do what I want to do. Well, Shopify for me, I know Squarespace and a few other people have started to dabble a bit in e-commerce, but Shopify, just if you're doing straight e-commerce, I don't know of a better platform. If I'm honest with you.
No, I couldn't agree. I mean, I think that is the great thing about it, is that it doesn't really matter what level you're at, is that you can jump into Shopify at any point. You know, if you're a multinational retailer that wants to use, the more advanced end of it, you've got Shopify Plus. If you're mid-market, great. If you have an idea that you want to bring to fruition within a week, Shopify is also there for you.
Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting to see what happens over the course of the next couple of years, because obviously, the market that Shopify is serving is so much more diverse than it used to be. And obviously, when Shopify then went to IPO, they then have shareholders, and there's all these kind of other kind of levels of things going on. Whereas I think, when they were kind of themselves a scrappy startup, it was much easier to focus on a smaller pot of people. So I don't know which way it will go, whether they'll still be able to service that very broad range of different clients, or do they kind of lean more down the enterprise route, lean more on the kind of the starting route. That is going to be an interesting one with Shopify, I think, in the next few years.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting you mentioned that people from, say, Magento platforms are moving to Shopify Plus, because for years it was always the other way around. You'd move from Shopify to Magento because really that was the only thing you could do, unless you went and got your own bespoke site written. And so I know a lot of people that moved from Shopify to Magento kind of regretted it, if I'm honest with you. I don't hear that many good things about Magento, but then that's just me. But it's interesting you say that people are now moving back because of Shopify Plus. For those that don't know, what is Shopify Plus, quickly?
Yeah, so Shopify Plus basically gives you additional functionality to use on Shopify. But one of the major benefits is that when you go to Shopify Plus, your transaction fees then reduce. So as you get to that kind of certain threshold of sales, it also then makes more sense for you. Yes, your fee that you're paying to Shopify for your hosting and support increases, but overall the cost to company goes down because the fact is that the transaction fees per transaction is going down. And what sort of happened with Plus, over the past sort of 12 or 18 months is that quite a few of those features that are there have either been dripped down to other packages in Shopify, but equally there has been some additional things that have come in for Shopify Plus merchants that makes it more worthwhile for them to hang on. So I think the overall picture here is that Shopify were very aware that more of these kind of enterprise level clients were wanting to use it. So, the likes of, Gymshark, all these kind of big brands, Kylie Cosmetics, and they kind of said, look, there needs to be something additional there to pull over those people who are on Magento currently, or just keep that enterprise level client happy. So it's just kind of made that more of a better distinction between, smaller to mid-market and then mid-market to enterprise.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you for that. It's always good to sort of pick people's brains about different platforms. But I appreciate that's not the title of the podcast. But I think it's just good to talk about these kind of things because things are changing so quick. I'm always curious. So you badge yourself as an e-commerce customer experience agency, right? Which I think is a really fantabulous title. I think it's just something which actually captures imagination a little bit. But what do you mean by customer experience?
Yeah, so I think this is the thing. Look, you can get lost, with CX and customer experience as one of those like nice buzzwords. And I think the important thing for me to say here is, from our point of view, what we do is that when we have a client who comes to work with us, we are saying, you as a brand, you as a merchant, what is it like being your customer before you even click on the website to the point at which you actually make your very final sale? Is there a good experience happening in terms of what you see on site, what information you're getting, how quick things happen, all of those different touch points effectively you would have with a customer? Are those things as good as they could possibly be? Because the danger is, with agencies is that, look, a brand can look at an agency and say, well, look, those are the guys, those are the website guys. And the thing is, like, to an extent, yes, okay, we deal with the website, but we have got to make sure that that one singular asset for that company is actually working with all the other elements of their company. So is that website working for the customer services team to allow customer service to provide good customer service? Is it working with the warehousing team that means that the warehousing team can get those orders out as quickly as possible?
Yeah.
So it's all of the things that surround a business, you know, as you will well know, Matt, that are, yes, connected to the website, but the customer experience side of thing is that how well do all those pieces fit together? So at the end of the day, customer X says, yeah, you know, Gymshark, Wall Paint, Candy Kittens, whichever company it might be, is on Shopify. They're a great company to deal with. I'm going to continue being a loyal customer with them.
That's great. So customer experience then, what is it like being your customer? And specifically, what's it like being your customer at the various touch points along the path? What are some of the things that you are looking for when you're asking that question of clients? What are some of the red flags that continually come up?
I mean, when we kind of talk to clients, you know, I think the number one thing is that, you know, we've been living in an age where we are all obsessed with conversion rate on e-commerce websites. Mm-hmm. So if your conversion rate is 3%, every 100 people that visit your store, 3 people are going to buy. Great. But the issue with that metric is that it is very short term and it is very easy to fudge. And what I mean by that is, you know, that when you look at conversion rate in particular, you can say, well, my conversion rate was, you know, 3% in the past 3 months, but ultimately, how much have you spent on getting that customer to the site? Mm-hmm. And what is the chance that that customer you brought in is actually going to continue to buy from you the second, third, or fourth time? So it gives a very narrow view of what is there. So when we kind of talk to clients, what we're talking to about is that in that particular situation, we're trying to find out from them, right, what is that cost? What is your acquisition cost? And then typically, how many times do people keep coming back? So essentially, what is your lifetime value or customer lifetime value? What is the value that each customer could potentially bring to your business over a longer term period? But when it kind of comes to those red flags, I think, you know, the thing is, in terms of looking actually their sites, it tends to be things like, for example, get 10% off now for your first purchase. Now, a lot of people are going to be saying, well, hang on a minute, that's just a common technique that's used in e-commerce. It is a common technique, but the question is that, you know, in that particular scenario, are you actually attracting that right type of customer? So we've all done it. We've all been there. We've all gamified it. You sign up to a brand, you get the 10% off, you get that first purchase, you never shop with them again. So alternative methods here in terms of that customer experience is when they don't see that, and what they might see alternatively is, let's say, for example, a quiz, which will say, look, get your free personal skincare regime from us. You then enter some different information about your lifestyle, about your skin, about what you're looking to achieve with it. That is setting them a much better path, and then realizing that company is going to give you a lot more than just that 10% discount. So it's that, you know, in terms of that kind of before the sale, those are the kind of things that we look at from a customer experience point of view that make the customer evaluate you as a brand, rather than kind of going down that standard, okay, well, let's just go at 10% off.
That's a really good point. And I like how you talk about that, how the quiz actually in the mind of the customer increases the value that you're giving them. Mm-hmm. And it increases the value because you're being a lot more helpful, which I think is, we're going to come back to that, circle that idea about being a bit more helpful. So I guess my primary concern here, Adam, if I'm honest with you, is when I hear that, I go, I resonate. But do you know how easy it is to put on the website 10% off your first order versus creating a quiz and all the content that goes alongside that, right? So how do you wrestle with that?
No, it's a really good point. I think, you know, look, there's 2 things I would say to that is that, one, the ability to have those on-site quizzes now has been made a lot easier. And there's some great tools that, like Octane AI, for example, they have a brilliant tool that allows you to do this with relative ease. But the other thing is it's actually the value from those 2 different activities. So let me give you an example. If we say, for example, have that site with a 10% pop-up, ordinarily what will happen is you will put in your name, you'll put in your email address, and that's the data that essentially that brand has collected. Now, in an era, when we've got third-party cookies going away, zero-party data has become more important, acquisition cost is super high. If you've managed to get some information from a customer, does that warrant the cost that you've paid to get that person to site? On the other hand, if you have a quiz that allows you to find out, okay, well, if it's a beauty brand, if it's a skincare brand, what type of skin this person has, what they do for a living, what their lifestyle choices are, do they have children? There's all of these different data points that you can collect from that quiz and then tie in with your email marketing platform like Klaviyo, for example. Now, what that means is that those two activities that you've done, you're going to get an email address and a name versus all of these different data points that you can use as what I would say chances to market to that person. So if you come to my site and you've done that quiz, I can personalize our welcome flow to you and if you tell me that you've got oily skin, my message to you will feel like it's directed at you because I'm talking about products for oily skin. The next opportunity, if you don't buy, might be that I'm talking about, busy entrepreneurs who have kids, for example. That's going to be the next piece of content. So again, it gets to resonate with you. So yes, there is a bit more work involved there, but the uplift in the value that you can get from the data that's there is so much bigger than just having that individual address because you're not able to glean anything with it. You can't, a lot of the time when it comes to that collecting the email address, you spend, quite a few weeks and even months trying to eke that information out of people with their purchase behavior, with their on-site behavior. You're leapfrogging all of that by getting more information at the start to then personalize that marketing message out to them.
Yeah, I like it. It's interesting, isn't it? That, it used to be, you may have seen this. I've definitely seen this, been around a little while. It used to be that you could just put a website up and people would buy from it. And then that was fine. And then that stopped working. And so then we started using Google AdWords and then that started to work. And then we started to do things like, maybe I need to do something else now to get people to buy. And it's always these little tricks that we've been trying along the way. The one that which wound me up the most, I don't know if you've come across it, was the spin the wheel.
I
hate it with a passion. If that's on your website and you're listening to the podcast, please take it off. So all these gimmicks, all these things, and I see the 10% thing being used. We've used it ourselves over the years. And I'd say its efficacy has fallen. And so everyone's now looking for the next big thing. But what you're doing, I suppose, in effect, if I listen to what you're saying, is you're trying the next thing. But actually, just something simple as a survey gives you so much data and enables you to actually talk to your customer in a language which will resonate with them, that maybe we should just, it's almost like old school, isn't it? Old school marketing techniques. It's like, what do they like? Let's talk about that. Do you know what I mean? With your customer. So, as an aside, by the way, why do you hate the spinny wheel thing?
Well, I think two things. One is the ability to actually extract data is low. So that's the first thing. And I think second thing is it often devalues a brand. Now, what I would say is, look, for some brands that I would say are, low cost items, singular purchase, it's all about basically trying to get that impulse buy. So if you kind of had a single product, under sort of £20, under $20, great, fine. But ultimately then you're setting that expectation, not only about the standards that your company has as a brand, but secondly, what it also does is that it's only going to lead to the next time around that customer expecting to get a discount or a freebie that they got in the first place. So I think it just sets that relationship up wrong from the outset, because there is just the expectation you're going to get this kind of gimmicky 10% off, £5, $5 off, free tote bag, whatever it might be, every time you shop. And that doesn't then again kind of lead to that longer term relationship. So I think if it is all about that singular purchase, stack up your ad budget in Facebook, acquire them, get them to buy, get them to go, fine. But if you've got a suite of products or a family of products that you want them to then go through to get a high lifetime value, then no, steer away.
Yeah, I'm with you. Avoid the gimmicks is usually the best long-term strategy. Well, even medium-term strategy, to be fair. It's just avoid the gimmicks. They usually don't work. So we're thinking about the customer who's coming to the website, and we're going, well, let's increase the value adds. Let's create more touch points in effect, or more data points where we can understand the customer better, and then we can help them understand our products better, and we can find out where there's a bigger crossover. So one point of that is the 10% is a survey. What other ideas do you have that it maybe can help me add a better experience?
Yeah, so I think when you land on a site, you've got a couple of different things here. Now, the one obviously of getting people into your email funnel, with kind of using that quiz idea is one. But I think the other thing is that because there are so many personalization tools available now, essentially using one of those personalization tools to amend the homepage to make it feel more targeted for that user is also really helpful. So there's a couple of things you can do here. One is obviously for existing customers. So if you're using one of these kind of AI personalization tools, if let's say, for example, I have recently been on the H&M website, I've purchased, 3 pairs of chinos all in different colors. It's very simple now to basically amend that H&M homepage when I go next to show 3 tops or 3 shirts that go with those pair of trousers that I just purchased.
Yeah.
Super simple to do that. But equally, when it comes to actually, that initial customer who's maybe not been on your site before, is making sure that your navigation is based not on things just like, for example, color, but also things like occasion. Now, what we've seen a lot, particularly with kind of apparel, apparel and kind of clothing companies the past couple of years, is that when people are coming to site, what a lot of the time they're doing is they've either got something in their mind they want to go to and they want the full outfit, or the other thing is, what's been happening a lot is that people are now, for example, using things like Instagram and using Pinterest to say, for example, go and find an outfit that they're looking for.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you can do is there's a couple of tools on there. One of them is Site, which allows you to actually upload an image to the search on a site, which will then go and search visually that image you've put up and then find products that then match them. So then again, in that situation, you're giving that customer, you're bypassing that need to go and use all the different search filters. Another one I would say, Matt, is that massively overlooked is having a damn good search feature on your site. Yeah. There are, the amount of times, you would have seen this, over the years. Again, you go to an e-commerce site and, for example, you type in, blue shirt. You then start getting, blue bed linen because the word blue is in there. It's those kind of things that if you've got a dynamic search option, which, will, number one, pick out and make sure that you've obviously got that, having the ability then saying, look, it looks like you're looking for blue shirts. What size are you? And then being able to select medium. And then it's going to return just the items back to you that are blue shirts in medium that you can then go and buy. Super simple to do, but just not being done. And, you've got all these big, heavy navigations that people are building with all these different options on. If you can get that customer to that product quicker by giving them, navigation terms that they understand in terms of things they want to achieve with the product, you've got much more chance of then converting them. And I think, for me, that as an experience side of thing, I think that's super important. I mean, look, I hate to kind of call people out, but, look, Wayflyer for me, Wayfair even, my apologies. So big product selection. Their navigation for me is just unusable. There are so many different types of, categories to go down, subcategories to get to. What you want on that site is basically telling you your ability to say the problem or the thing that you are shopping for. Or I'm shopping for my living room and my favorite colors are black, white, and I like wood effect.
Yeah.
Great. It wouldn't be hard to do that, but it's just breaking that process down to make it easy for the customer is something that I think in e-commerce we can find very difficult to do.
I totally agree. And I think one of the interesting things that is happening is there are experts now who are thinking about this versus just a web developer throwing up a navigation which is easy for them to build, right? Or in a way where they think, because the web developer thinks about the site in terms of how they're building it, which is not how customers think about your website. They just don't think linearly, do they, at all? And so I like that. Let me circle back a little bit. So you've talked about 3 things there. Well, I've jotted down 3 key headings, shall we say, which we'll get into. One is personalizing your homepage. 2, you mentioned the navigation, and 3, you mentioned the search feature. So let's deal with those in reverse order. So the search feature, you mentioned Wayfair. You see, I contrast what you said there with Amazon. Amazon, I never, ever use their categories. Ever. I always use the search. And we found on our websites that if a customer types something into the search versus using the navigation or the filters or whatever, if they could type it in and find the product, the conversion rate was much higher. Because for whatever reason, they just couldn't be bothered to take the time. So the search feature was a really fascinating thing for me. And I get what you're saying there, that actually having a really powerful search feature is super helpful. But here's the thing, right? Search is, when I go to Amazon, I know what I'm looking for, or I have kind of theories of category. Or do you know what I mean? I might, like the other day, I was looking for something to monitor power usage. Do you know what I mean? So I was like power usage meters. And I know that when you sell something on Amazon, you can put in these keywords. So when people type in not your name, not your brand, not the exact name of what you're selling, you can come up on the search results. And I think there's a lot we can learn from that in e-commerce, that people don't just search exact phrases, they search these sort of roundabout phrases, don't they?
It's kind of problem, it's that problem solving element, I think, with Amazon that, we don't probably do enough of on more, sort of standard e-commerce sites. And I think this is kind of thing, about, I think, look, beauty and skincare are absolutely prime for this. Look, what is the problem that we're trying to resolve here? What is the difference we're trying to make? So that's kind of search feature thing really kind of comes into play. And it's the same, with clothing, to an extent, because again, you're usually looking for that clothing for an occasion, for an event, for a particular, work type that that you work in. So there's all these sort of things that we don't really kind of do enough of. We're too concerned about making it look pretty, opposed to getting that customer to that right product, which obviously is exactly what Amazon is the king at.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I like that because I remember with Jersey, one of the things that we noticed was there were the various types of people that come to your website. And I'm going to talk in very, very headline stereotypes now, so do forgive me. But we had one group of customers who would come to the site who knew exactly what they wanted. They'd bought the product before. They knew that was their moisturizer, that was their cleanser, that was whatever it was. I'm buying that and I want to get to that as quickly as possible, which you mentioned. And then there was the other type of customer who came along to the website, a visitor to the website, didn't really know what they wanted, to be fair. They sometimes they could define their problem. So we started to see an uptake in sales when we started to do what you mentioned. So not just brand moisturizer, it was shop by skin concern, the oily skin. So they could go, I've got oily skin. I click that and see what products come up, and then I can look at the reviews and see what's going on there. And then we realized that actually there's people that come to the site who go, my skin's just not right. And you're like, how do I help those, right, that are very top level kind of, I've got a problem, but I can't even define it, right? Have you got any thoughts on how we can help there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things I would say that I've seen being done with that situation is, particularly, I suppose, in the beauty space, having the kind of tester kits is really useful. So if you've, for example, like face creams, I think the one brand that I saw do it, you could order a kind of testing kit, which I think had 5 mils of each of the different blends in. But what it basically did, what was quite smart with it, is that when you then got that product, there was then an email flow that went with it that gave them a regime for a period of over 3 weeks. So what you were basically doing is you were asking them to try the different products at different points. You were then kind of holding their hand through each one and almost getting to record the results of what was happening based on the fact that you would message them at certain points. Now, off the back of that, then, depending on what the interaction came back at when they were using each of those products, the follow-up messaging would then be for a discount off the product, which seemed then to be the best fit. So, yes, there is a cost associated with that, But ultimately, if you can make that, a low value purchase of say under $10, under £10, you've got that situation where people go, okay, well, yeah, I'm going to give this a try. If you call products, if you talk about moisturizer, say 30 to £50 or $30 to $50 per pot, and then you can offer something that is, maybe at the $10 or £10 mark, you then got, that willingness of, okay, well, it's 25% the cost of the full product. I'd rather do that than actually then go full pelt. So I think that's the one side of things. The other side of things is that, I think the quiz side of things does help a lot with this, because you don't, in that particular situation, you don't need to really even go down that route of, look, what is their skin type? If you can ask them things about their diet and things about how they're feeling generally about their skin, are you feeling positive? Are you feeling confident? Are you not feeling confident? You can kind of deduce from that which product might be best than to kind of give a shot. So you can do it in that sense. But I think the other thing too is that when you've kind of got those, I guess, sort of inquisitive people coming to site who are not really sure what they're doing, having even things like, for example, that automated chatbot in the corner can also be quite helpful. Now, chatbots, I think, are a little bit divisive, but there are some fantastic tools now that are very much AI driven. So that when, you have kind of people talking in colloquial terms or saying, I'm not really sure what I need here, almost kind of having those questions built into that chatbot to then give them recommendations can be very helpful. I mean, I know of one brand who are a supplements company, and what they actually do is that when you have a customer coming onto that chatbot, they will actually send you a link to book in a consultation with one of their advisors. So these guys are basically people that have had relatively decent training, in terms of the use of vitamins, use of supplements, getting them onto what usually apparently is kind of a 7 to 8 minute call. And in that time, their conversion rate, they were saying, is over 30%. Yeah. So it's, yes, okay, there's that cost associated with it. But again, if you've got a product that, is, let's say, $100 a month, and you're typically going to keep that customer for, say, 3 to 5 years, well, hey, it's worth it. But that's why it's so important to know what your LTV is, or know what your customer lifetime value is, to be able to make those calls on those what appear more costly, kind of customer experience and customer success type of activities.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's really interesting how you mentioned that with the supplement company. All the things that you've talked about, in effect, you are basically saying, and if I can summarize, Adam, you're basically saying, listen, there are different types of people come to your website. Sometimes they know what they want, sometimes they don't. Your job is to help them get to understand what they want as quickly as is humanly possible, right? So if they know what they want, be smart with the navigation, personalize your homepage, be smart with your emails, and get them to that product as soon as possible, and recommend products which go along with that in terms of cross sells and upsells. It's a no-brainer. If they don't know what they want, you can use tools like quizzes, you can use tools like sample kits and all that sort of stuff to help them figure out what your products are going to make sense. Phone calls, I think, is one of the. I'm going to touch on this a little bit because this is a bit of a sore point for me. In the sense that I have noticed over the years, if I have asked anybody who is, well, let's just say a millennial or younger, if they come to me and they said, oh, I've got this and this, I'll say, just give them a ring, just give them a call and talk to them, because I'm sure that can be resolved within inside like 10 seconds, right? Just give them a ring. Next day I go to that person. Did you call them? No, I emailed them. No, that's not what I asked you to do. I asked you to call them. Yeah, I did. I emailed. No. Email and texting is not a phone. There's something quite extraordinary about the power of talking to somebody on the phone. It's like going into I can see with the supplement guys, it's like going into the shop and just talking to somebody and them just asking you a bunch of questions. And you liking that person and trusting what they've said, you're going to leave with a bag full of supplements, right? And I think it's one of the most underutilized tools out there.
Completely agree. And I think, it's things like, we do quite a bit of work with jobs to be done surveys with our customers. So effectively what this means is that, if you have a brand, we will then go and pick out 20 different customers of your brand. And what we'll do then is we'll spend usually kind of 45 minutes to an hour with each customer. So there's quite a lot of time involved there. But as you can imagine, the amount of information that you can get from those calls it takes a lot of time to process it all, yes, but the value that you can get from that, because it's that rawness, isn't it? And it's that ability of people to actually say what they think. You're never going to get that same response on an email or a survey. It just ain't ever going to happen. You're not going to hear that tone of voice. You're not going to hear those long pauses. You're not going to hear that joy in their voice when they talk about, the fact that, look, you once sent them a free sample in their second order, and that's basically what's kept them with you. It's all these little things that appear throwaway comments to that customer, but having that chat, it just makes a lot of difference. And I mean, I think the qualitative side of a customer experience is really underutilized. Things like, for example, net promoter scores, having that very short quiz at the end to say, how was your shopping experience with us today? People don't believe it. Usually you'll get sort of 25 to 30% hit rate on those. And again, with that information, you can then fundamentally go in and change your checkout process, change what's happening on your homepage based on the fact that what people have actually said. And we're so obsessed with data in e-commerce, but it's all quantitative data. We're never looking enough at qualitative. And that's what we've got to get our heads around, particularly in this really, really competitive market that we find ourselves in now.
Yeah, such a good point. Just call your customers and have a conversation. It's one of the it's just one of the most powerful pieces of advice I think we can give you as e-commerce entrepreneurs. But it's the opposite, isn't it? It's analog. You mean I've got to talk to somebody? I can't just get them to check a check. No, you've got to talk to somebody, or get a company to talk to them on your behalf, who know how to ask questions and elicit information out of people. Right? It's just sensible to do that. And like you say, the data that comes out of it is unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable. And it changes, I think, your business in major ways. All good, if I'm honest with you. Just circling back to we didn't touch on the personalized homepage too much. So some examples of how you think that could work well would be great.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the benefit, like you were saying there, Matt, with some of your customers, they are only interested in that particular moisturizer. They know what they buy. So what is the point in trying to then sell them a new moisturizer when they come to that site? Ultimately, I guess what you want to be doing is that if that moisturizer sits within a family of products that fit in with a particular process, is making sure that those products are essentially the hero products when they come to that site. So I think that's important. The other thing too is that, when it comes to, pets is an interesting one as well. An area that we've done quite a lot of work with over the past few years, would that be, accessories, would that be pet food products? But I think, what we've definitely seen there is that we have one brand, and what enables you to do, it enables you to select your dog's breed via a pop-up when you first come on site. Now, we A/B tested this, and what was absolutely insane was that when you gave that selection to versus when you didn't, not only did you have a damn sight more time on site, because what was happening is that if, for example, like me, you're a French Bulldog owner, your homepage has got a French Bulldog on it. You've then got references to, different little Frenchy things, like Frenchies do zoomies, where they kind of jump all around. There was a reference to that on the homepage. So yeah, it's a bit of work that's involved in it, but effectively what you feel like is, I've just found a website for French Bulldog owners that produces food for French Bulldogs. It wasn't the case, because it was for all dogs, but you kind of get that impression. And that for me, was such a, relatively simplistic thing to do, but it again gives you the opportunity straight away to start off on that great foot of, look, we're able to personalize for this person. And it's equally things that, like, people often, a lot of the time you'll go to a site and say, which country are you visiting from? And ordinarily what that's to do is to send you to a site that has different currencies on, blah, 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 blah. Now with that, I think what the smarter brands I've seen do with that is then, number one, go and personalize the language on that site, and also the references and the imagery that have happened. So again, I know an apparel brand that did this. They had basically US, Canada, UK, Australia, and I think Portugal were kind of the 5 different areas where the majority of those companies come from. All they effectively did with that is that when you selected that, yes, okay, currency change is fine, but what was happening is that the imagery that was being used for just mainly the hero images on the collections page and the homepage were all basically shoots that were done in each of those countries. So straight away, it's easy. Like, you're going to be doing the sheets anyway. You just put in those little references that allow people to feel like, okay, this brand is for me in my country for me.
Yeah.
Made the world a difference.
That's really powerful. That's really powerful. I like that. I like that a lot, actually. And thinking, like you say, about who's a customer, finding information out and just tailoring the homepage to them. It makes all the sense in the world, right? Makes all the sense in the world. And so, listen, Adam, I feel like I'm just starting to scratch the surface of what is a phenomenal topic. And I'd love to pick your brains about it an awful lot more, but I'm aware of time. How do people reach you? How do people connect with you? Because I'm sure people are going to have a lot more questions, a lot more thoughts on this. And so if they want to reach you, how do they do that?
Yeah, fantastic. So if you have a look at blendcommerce.com, an alternative as well, I am quite active on LinkedIn. So you can find me, Adam Pearce, Pearce. I post a lot of stuff on there about customer experience, about email marketing, about Shopify. So do get in touch.
Yeah, do that. And what are you working on at the moment? What's Blend Commerce working on at the moment? What exciting things are in the pipeline?
Yeah, so we actually have a very large company that has kind of cut its teeth in TV shopping, that are now actually migrating towards more of an e-commerce model. So we're basically helping them manage that customer experience from having people who call up to kind of TV shopping channels in the US to trying to migrate them to having an experience as an e-commerce shopper. So that's really interesting. And I think the other thing as well that is probably a little bit more unusual, but one that I'm very proud of and is very interesting, is we're actually working with a company who sell coffins or caskets online. And they are disrupting the US funeral market massively. It's a very emotive topic. It's a very unusual brand to be working with. But again, for me, the challenge there is that how do we get that customer experience right for a very unusual, unique type of offering? So we work with lots of different types of brands. We don't kind of just go down one vertical. All very exciting stuff. So looking forward to the next few months.
Sounds fascinating. And one of the things that's intriguing me about e-commerce at the moment, and you've just triggered it in my head. I mean, I go on podcasts, right? And I listen, and people interview me, and they. One of the questions is, "What do you think's coming up in e-commerce?" And one of my answers to that question is this whole live selling thing, which So your TV guys, I'm really keen to see how they incorporate that in e-commerce, because I think it's going to be such a massive deal. But that is a topic for another show, I have no doubt. Now, just in closing, Adam, you said to me you actually have a podcast. Why don't you just give a quick plug for that?
Yeah, fantastic. So it's called Shopify Across the Pond. We have great guests on there who are merchants, who are brands, who provide tech and apps. And we talk about all different manner of challenges that is going on. Do give us a check out on Apple Podcasts.
Shopify Across the Pond.
That's right. Yeah, Shopify Across the Pond.
Awesome. Listen, Adam, thank you so much for being on the show and delivering all those value bombs. That's such a trendy phrase, isn't it? Thanks for coming and sharing.
No worries. And thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks, bro. So there you have it. There you've got it. It's right there. Another fantastic conversation with the e-commerce podcast. Huge shout out to Adam for joining me today. What a legend he is. Now you can get the notes for today's podcast along with all of our complete back catalogue over on our newly revamped website at ecommercepodcast.net. Go check it out. Love to know your thoughts. Love to know what you think about the website. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts from, because we've got some great conversations lined up and we wouldn't want you to miss any of them. We just wouldn't. And in case no one has told you yet today, you, my friend, are awesome.